Listen to the teacher. What time did she arrive at work?
On a normal day, I try to be at work a half an hour before we begin lessons at 8:30. Arriving at 8 o'clock sharp allows me to get my materials in order and prepare myself for the day. However, with today's unexpected snowstorm, it took me much longer to get to work. There was an accident on the motorway too. I was actually late for work and got in at 9 o'clock a.m. Most of my students were late too.
Listen to the message. What day will the teacher be absent?
Hi, I'm leaving this message to let you know that I will be away on Tuesday next week to finish up my student progress reports. I know that there are sometimes difficulties with finding appropriate coverage, so I'm giving you more than enough notice. I will leave my lesson plans for the substitute teacher in my classroom on Monday evening. When I return on Wednesday, I will submit my completed progress reports.
How many teachers attended the meeting?
Once a month, we have large staff meetings that include all 50 members of staff. This includes teachers, administrative staff, and support workers. Usually only about 40 people attend, though, because of personal reasons or scheduling conflict. However, last week we had our biannual curriculum meeting where all 25 teachers attended. It was nice to have everyone in attendance because we were able to cover all of the topics.
What was in the students' lunch bag?
As I was supervising lunchtime in my classroom today, I observed what my students were eating. Most students had a typical sandwich, either with peanut butter and jam or some sort of deli meat. I was also happy to see that many students had carrots and celery as a snack as well. One of my students, however, seemed to be hiding his lunch. I opened his lunch bag to find only a cupcake for lunch. It seems like his parents had forgotten the rest of his lunch.
Where is the teacher going on holiday?
As teachers, we are privileged to have many holiday periods throughout the year. Last summer, I went to Australia. It was a wonderful trip, but it was quite stressful to travel to the other side of the world. My coworker invited me to travel to Italy with her next break, but I declined. I'm not into having a busy itinerary visiting lots of monuments. Instead, I am planning to relax on the beautiful beaches of Cancun, Mexico. I can't wait to do absolutely nothing.
Two students are talking. What did the teacher change about her appearance?
Have you seen Miss DeMarco today? She looks totally different. Does she always dress like that?
Yeah, she does. It's quite typical of her to wear blazers and heels.
So what's different then?
Well, it's definitely not her teaching methods. I was so bored in her class this morning, as usual. But yeah, you're right. She's got a fringe now. I think she might have also dyed her hair lighter too.
What subject will the substitute teacher cover?
Being an on-call teacher has its perks. I get to experience all different subject matters, even some that I personally haven't studied since I was in school. I've gotten to paint something in an art class and referee a football match in PE class. This week, I am covering an information technology class, which definitely did not exist when I was a teenager. I must admit that even I learned something.
What did the child bring to show and tell?
I am hesitant to host show and tell sessions in class. While the purpose of this activity is to share something that makes the child happy, I have had several issues with it in the past, like arguments over toys or bringing live pets to class. However, today I had a student bring in his favorite book and he asked me to read it to the class. It was such a pleasant experience.
How many students are going on the upcoming trip?
Last semester, we took 2 classes to the museum. That's 48 students in total, and it was a disaster. We got several complaints from museum staff about not having enough supervision and about students wandering around. This time round, I am only bringing my 24 students. In order to minimise chaos, I have also asked 4 volunteers to come and help chaperone. Hopefully, things will run more smoothly this time.
What did the teacher break in class?
I have always been a clumsy person. It's for that reason I do not confiscate students' mobile phones. I do not want to be held responsible in the case that I accidentally knock one off a desk and break one. I always tend to drop things, mugs, vases, etc. But what I broke today were my eyeglasses. They had fallen out of my pocket and I accidentally stepped on them.
Two colleagues are discussing their weekend plans. What is the man doing?
Happy Friday, Sandra. What are your weekend plans?
You too, James. Nothing major. I should do a deep cleaning of my apartment though. I hosted a dinner party last night and it's still a total mess. How about you?
Oh, I'm planning on going to the cinema. There's a new action film out that I really want to see.
Who did the teacher see at the grocery store at the weekend?
Last Sunday, I went to a different grocery store than usual. I was leaving my parents' house and I thought that I should pick up a few things before I head home. It was pleasant to not see any students, like I do in the supermarket by my work. But can you imagine the shock on my face when I ran into the principal of my school? Yup. It turns out that my boss lives around the corner from my parents.
What did the teacher receive as a gift?
As a teacher, I tend to accumulate a lot of holiday gifts. In fact, I probably have about 20 different mugs that are sitting in a cupboard at home from students over the years. I also tend to get a few bouquets of flowers at the end of the year, which is lovely until they all wilt and die. However, this year, my students pulled together to get me a gift card to a local bookshop. I thought this was really sweet, and I will be using it to stock up our class library.
Four people are discussing their views on professional development in the workplace. Complete the sentences. Use each answer only once. You will not need two of the reasons.
When I accepted this teaching position, I was quite excited that it offered weekly professional development sessions for all teachers. I signed up for the grammar class first, hoping to learn some tips and tricks on how to teach grammar in a fun way. You know, activities, games, anything that can keep teens interested. Well, was I ever disappointed? The meetings were actually like mini lectures, where we analysed grammatical structures in depth. Sure, it is important to know the technical aspects of language as a teacher, but I thought there was just way too much theory for the sessions to be useful.
At my workplace, we are very fortunate to have monthly professional development days. The students have the day off school and all the teachers come in and participate in workshops. I love learning. That's why I became a teacher. So I always look forward to these days. I just wish we had more of a choice. The themes and guest speakers are chosen by our principal, who doesn't really have the best idea of what we as teachers would like to learn about. It would be great if we had a choice from a wide variety of sessions.
Ever since I started attending professional development conferences, I feel like I am a much better educator. As an introvert, I used to be shy in the classroom as well. I always felt like I wasn't able to fully express myself to my students, and because of that, I had some problems establishing a strong rapport with my students. However, participating in discussions about education with my colleagues has really made me feel that I have good ideas. It has made me believe in myself more. In addition, I feel more comfortable when standing in front of large groups of students.
After a few years into my teaching career, I began working at a school that only offered 2 days of professional development a year. I couldn't believe that. How were we expected to keep up to date with the current issues in education? Most of my colleagues felt the same way, but had never voiced their opinions to management before. So what I did was collect data on the kinds of professional development the teachers would like. And then I researched the best way to go about it. I pitched the idea to my principal, and while he was hesitant at first, he gave me his full support to begin a teacher education program.
Listen to a new teacher having a discussion with his boss. Read the statements and decide whose opinion matches the best. The man's, the woman's, or both.
Amy, you asked to see me, but I don't want to be any trouble if you are busy.
No worries, Lewis. Come on in. I have been meaning to talk to you about your class observation.
Oh no, let me apologise for that. I really wanted to impress you, so I tried to cover too much material. I don't think my students were able to keep up with it all. It was awful.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself. I definitely think there were some strengths to it. Let's start with those. What do you think you did well?
Well, I think that my students enjoyed the theme of the lesson. We always get on really well.
I totally agree. I thought you all had excellent rapport. It's not always easy for a teacher to connect so well with their students. You're doing great in that aspect.
So, what am I not doing correctly then?
I think you identified it earlier. You just tried to do too much in a short amount of time.
So, I shouldn't try to cover that much material, should I? I have such a range of levels in that class.
Well, in that situation, it is also helpful to have modified versions of your activities. You can have extra handouts for stronger students who would benefit from working independently. You might also want to have modifications for weaker learners who need more support. Being prepared in this way will allow you to think on your feet and make adaptations as you go along.
Would I be able to observe a more experienced teacher in order to get ideas?
Absolutely. I have organised a peer observation timetable. You will be observing Lucy's class and she will be observing yours.
Wait, why would she be observing me? She has decades of experience.
Like I said, connecting with students doesn't come easy for everyone. I think she could learn a lot from you about how you engage with your learners.
Four people are discussing their views on professional development in the workplace. Complete the sentences. Use each answer only once. You will not need two of the reasons.
When I accepted this teaching position, I was quite excited that it offered weekly professional development sessions for all teachers. I signed up for the grammar class first, hoping to learn some tips and tricks on how to teach grammar in a fun way. You know, activities, games, anything that can keep teens interested. Well, was I ever disappointed? The meetings were actually like mini lectures, where we analysed grammatical structures in depth. Sure, it is important to know the technical aspects of language as a teacher, but I thought there was just way too much theory for the sessions to be useful.
At my workplace, we are very fortunate to have monthly professional development days. The students have the day off school and all the teachers come in and participate in workshops. I love learning. That's why I became a teacher. So I always look forward to these days. I just wish we had more of a choice. The themes and guest speakers are chosen by our principal, who doesn't really have the best idea of what we as teachers would like to learn about. It would be great if we had a choice from a wide variety of sessions.
Ever since I started attending professional development conferences, I feel like I am a much better educator. As an introvert, I used to be shy in the classroom as well. I always felt like I wasn't able to fully express myself to my students, and because of that, I had some problems establishing a strong rapport with my students. However, participating in discussions about education with my colleagues has really made me feel that I have good ideas. It has made me believe in myself more. In addition, I feel more comfortable when standing in front of large groups of students.
After a few years into my teaching career, I began working at a school that only offered 2 days of professional development a year. I couldn't believe that. How were we expected to keep up to date with the current issues in education? Most of my colleagues felt the same way, but had never voiced their opinions to management before. So what I did was collect data on the kinds of professional development the teachers would like. And then I researched the best way to go about it. I pitched the idea to my principal, and while he was hesitant at first, he gave me his full support to begin a teacher education program.